Welcome to another waitingfornextyear.com podcast. Return guest, Dave Sterling, Democo. I hope you enjoy your Twitter AVI because it's going to be on the YouTube post for this podcast.
Oh, wow. Well, yes, I do actually enjoy my... That is a picture of me in my mullet headband that was purchased for a co-ed indoor soccer league and used while weightlifting for maximum effect.
So that I thought maybe it was a Halloween picture or something else, but obviously for those who aren't looking at this, you can find it on waitingfornextyear.com. We have the YouTube posted now, or you can go to and follow the man on Twitter at DIMOKO. And see the lovely mullet headband. I'm glad to hear that it's a headband and not the real deal.
Yes, I do not have an actual mullet. I don't think I can pull it off.
Did you ever have a mullet?
I never had a mullet. I've never
Rat tail?
I was a 90s bowl cut kind of guy.
Will the 90s bowl cut ever achieve the same mockery status as the mullet?
If you ask my wife, it does. But if you ask the general public, I don't think it ever will.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. There's just something contrived about the mullet that isn't necessarily there with the bowl cut.
Yeah, and the mullet, I don't know, like the bowl cut, you could say, oh, it was a different time, but the mullet has spanned generations.
Yeah, it really has. And it seems like whenever you get to a place outside of even suburbia that closely emulates the South, that they've kind of forgotten that hairstyles need to be updated.
And some parts of Eastern Europe, that's true as well.
Isn't it kind of weird how if you get somewhere between Akron and Columbus, it starts to feel like the South, even though you're way north of the Mason-Dixon line?
Yeah, and I find it to be very bizarre. And it's not like the farm, it's just the people don't realize that they're in a very northern state. They're literally in a northern border state.
Maybe it must truly be a lifestyle thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but about the time you hit the Goasis, like I have a feeling that people around the Goasis were amongst the first to go, what do you mean it's $4 for a cup of coffee? What kind of cup of Kino is that?
Yeah, I love the Goasis, by the way. That's every time we leave the state of Ohio, on our way out, I think we stop at the Goasis because
it's the perfect distance away.
And it's actually all it's cracked up to be. It's so clean. They have a huge variety of things to overpay for.
Yep.
And yeah, and with now that I've got the kids running around, that clean bathroom thing has never been more important because you just never know when my 4-year-old's going to touch something that he shouldn't. And it's still dirty, even in the Goasis. Right. Don't get me wrong. A public bathroom is a public bathroom. But there's a level of grime on some of these roadside bathrooms that just is unpalatable.
Oh, yeah. If this doesn't segue into another topic, one of my biggest challenges Uber driving is, okay, it's now past 11 p.m., and you're in Rocky River, and you have to relieve yourself, where do you go? And that gets into the domain of the 24-hour gas station bathroom and their conditions.
Simple, man. Snapple bottle. What? Have you gone to the bottle yet? Have you been desperate enough?
No bottle yet. Mostly because I didn't have one the other night, but I literally had picked up some people downtown. We sat in traffic for 20 minutes, and then I took them to Lakewood, but out to, like, around the corner. So I'm practically in Rocky River, and I'm start my search for a gas station that's 24 hours. And I was very close to just saying, you know what, this neighborhood is fairly, like, everybody's asleep. I'm just going to find a bush here in this neighborhood. But I made it to an authorized location. So
it's funny, though, because I mean, you'd think it's kind of harmless, but you could get some weird exposure, public urination.
Oh, yeah.
it's not a small deal anymore. And I think I've probably told this story before, but after a Tenacious D show in Boston, I was walking through a parking lot across, because the show was the same night as a game at Fenway. And so the game and the concert were letting out at roughly the same time. And I left the venue pretty in the bag. I was pretty drunk. And I underestimated how badly I was going to have to go. And so I'm walking towards the street to either catch a cab or whatever. I'm like, uh-oh, this is not going to work. And I'm walking through a parking lot, one of the few parking lots next to Fenway. It probably costs $100 to park there now.
Right.
And I duck behind a minivan. And, it's like, it's go time. There's no turning back. And just then I noticed that there was a family in the minivan waiting to pull out. And so, and it's funny now because nothing happened, but I could have totally gotten nailed, and it would have been an indecent exposure, public urination, maybe a sex crime if there were kids in the car.
Right,
I mean, I would have had to register as a sex offender because I quote exposed myself. I mean, I can only imagine how awful that could have gone.
A few years ago, we were going to a Browns game, and we took the Rapid in on the lakefront line. And there is, I don't know what lot it is, but there's a tailgate lot that the lakefront line kind of runs right past. It's kind of on the bank of the flats there.
I think it's the pit. Is that the pit? Yeah.
And so these guys, to their reference point, I'm going to go to the edge of the parking lot over by the train tracks to pee. And so there's this line of about 5 or 6 guys all kind of peeing next to the tracks. And then bing, bing, here comes the Rapid full of people just to watch this line of guys facing us peeing. It was probably a little, I think I heard a little kid go, "Dad, what are they doing?" And the dad just kind of rolled his eyes and talked about Cleveland Browns fan behavior. But
yeah, and that's something that's become it's a part of the running community that I didn't know about, or the race day thing. Some races they do really well to stock up on Portos. Other ones it starts and ends at a park, and so they just assume that the facilities will be enough, and then with 5 minutes to go until race time,
right,
the inevitable, hey, people are streaming in and out of the woods, men, women alike, because the line is too long to get in a last-minute urination before the start of a race. Anyway, let's move on from that.
Yeah, I was going to say, the description of this podcast so far contains mullet, bathroom grime, and urgency for urination.
Right. Well, I think everybody can identify. It's a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
But it is a sports podcast, so we're going to talk about some sports here. I wrote this morning about the Kevin Love press conference, and I'm really trying not to nitpick, and I'm trying not to be a self-hating fan, but the same things that kind of bothered me about how the Miami Heat came together and how player movement works in the NBA, I was a little bit irritated with Kevin Love saying that it was his decision to come to the Cavs, or that, he told LeBron, "I'm in," as if, he was like a free agent. He was a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves and needed to be traded, and maybe he didn't owe anything else to the Timberwolves and put in his time and everything else. But just because it benefits my team doesn't mean it didn't rub me a little bit the wrong way.
I understand. And that was one of my, we talked last time, one of my bits of opposition towards the Wiggins for Love trade is I've spent the last 4 years complaining about this collusion and this crap like that they built a super team, but we're doing it the right way. But I, as you did last time, I'm going to welcome you to the high road, John. Because you're Craig, not John. I'm used to talking to John. My bad. Sorry.
No, that's why I laughed. Yeah. So, the high road's a fun place to be.
Yes. So, number one, when LeBron James called Kevin Love, he was a free agent. He was not a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, that is your legal defense.
Right.
What I read about that, how I read it was when he said that LeBron called him and he said, "I'm in," everyone around Cleveland was saying that if you can't get Kevin Love's long-term commitment after next year or the year after, it is not worth trading Andrew Wiggins.
Right.
And so to me, he was saying, okay, I'm in, I'll commit to Cleveland past this next contract, not just the 1 to 2 year rental.
Okay. I could buy that, I guess.
Now, whether that's what he meant or not, I don't know, but that's how I'm sleeping at night about it.
Yeah, that's how you're choosing to read into it. Well, and at the end of the day, if you're going to be an NBA fan, even temporarily, you kind of have to look the other way. As somebody pointed out in the comments, you better not start becoming a fan of international club soccer, because you want to talk about corrupt player movement. It's rampant, even more rampant over there. I feel like I need to at least be honest about it, though, because otherwise it makes me feel like a complete and utter hypocrite.
Oh, yeah, and that was my opposition to the trade in the first place was, wait a minute, we're going to do that exact thing that we all complained about 4 years ago, but this time it benefits us. And while we had no basketball to root for 4 years, to speak of, that's what we kept our fanhood going with. Well, at least the Cavs are doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And I read, I think, I don't remember which site it was on, but I don't know if I've ever told you my official LeBron James, Dan Gilbert conspiracy theory yet.
No.
And I have been saying this for a little while, and it's one of those things where I may have just gotten lucky that he decided to come back. But my whole thought was that when the Cavs lost to Boston and Dan Gilbert could see the writing on the wall and said, you know what, we're too good with LeBron to ever get any good players to complement LeBron, but we're not good enough to push over the edge. And, hey, LeBron, why don't you go somewhere else for a while? We'll stink it up. I'll talk to the NBA about fixing the draft lottery, which is only, half. I don't really think they fixed the draft lottery. But so you go and do what you're going to do for a while. We'll rebuild without you. Because to me, the letter of all things was kind of the telling point. To me, that was his letter to the fans. But this is a stone-cold billionaire who made his money in mortgage loans. So it's not exactly, if you're kicking people out of their houses. So you're not exactly someone who really would wear your emotions on your sleeve.
I love that that's how you boil down the mortgage industry.
That's all they do. Is
they kick people out of their houses. And I assume I'm not going to be the first person to just flat out tell you you're crazy.
Oh, no, I'm not crazy. I don't honestly think that that's what the mortgage people do.
No. I mean about the
people have called me crazy about
the conspiracy here.
Oh, yeah. So he said, LeBron, go do what you want. If you win a championship, great. If not, then when you're done there, come back here. We'll have done some stockpiling and we'll, make it happen.
No, see, and I might buy it, except that
the only thing that happened was then Chris Grant getting fired. That doesn't make as much sense.
And the lockout and all the collective bargaining agreement stuff and
don't bring facts into this.
The email that he sent trying to negate the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers. Yeah. So anyway, you're nuts.
I know.
You're funny, but you're nuts.
A lot.
And it doesn't help that I'm staring at that Twitter AVI while I'm talking to you. Oh yeah. So anyway, let's finish up the Uber conversation real quick. So you were Uber driving during Sportsmageddon downtown. This was the Gladiators, the Indians, and the Browns preseason game.
Yes. It started out well enough. I took a group of people in from Mayfield Heights down to, they wanted to go to West 6th. And I said, well,
I can get you close.
I can get you close. And they said, no, just take 90 in and then Just get off at West 3rd. It'll be fine. And and I said, okay. And you always ask the rider, which route do you want me to take? So you don't get accused of, I'm trying to sandbag you or something.
Spoken like a true suburban kid. I'm surprised they didn't say East 9th.
Right. And so we, of course, get down there and end up sitting, waiting for 50,000 people trying to cross West 3rd because the footbridge was closed. But then they'd have to have crossed the exit because of the footbridge being closed anyway. But they were just all concentrated and lined up. And luckily we had some hardworking cops there splitting time a little bit. And then I took one other quick ride, some people who were not interested in sports at all, out to Tremont, and then pretty much I got to enjoy the first half of the Browns game on the radio while all 100,000 people were still at their events.
So nobody was moving around during the actual games.
Yeah, about 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock was just plain dead.
And how much does it cost to go from Mayfield Heights to West 6th or West 3rd?
That was about $40.
See, that's not that bad. I always expect it to be a lot worse.
Well, the end of the night, it started to get a lot worse because there were so many people downtown. Things started to pick up, and there were a couple of fare surges. So I ended up, and I feel bad for the guys. They were over by they were by the queue, but kind of one street down over by East 4th, that area. And if they would have just walked one block up towards the queue, that was wide open. But they pinged me down there, and by the time I was stuck in that traffic, it took me 20 minutes to get half a block down the road to get to them, and then another 20 minutes to get to they wouldn't let us use East 9th. They sent us down to 14th, as they were their priority was clearly clear out East 9th and then worry about the cross streets. But East 9th was trickling at some point. They were very good sports. They were in a good mood. But yeah, that was an $80 ride from downtown to around the corner in Lakewood.
Wow.
A lot, because it was a surge and we sat there for a while, but they didn't complain, and they gave me a good rating, I think, so I can't complain too much about that.
Yeah, now that seems a little bit excessive, but then again, if you're gonna, I also would expect things on Sportsmageddon night to be a little bit crazy.
Well, and they are warned when they request the car,
right,
that you're in a fare surge. This is going to be 2.5 times because demand is high.
But when you are in the Cleveland area and you are already requesting a car, you have no other choice, presumably.
That is
You probably don't have a car with you. We do not have a subway system. Most people do not understand the buses. I don't understand the bus system. So you almost don't have a choice.
Right. I mean, you could have gotten to, West 117th on the Rapid. But then at that point, to get to around the corner, which is practically Rocky River, that's another trip on its own. But I think the other thing is, though, they don't create the fake surges. It's all based on, here's the number of drivers, here's the number of riders.
Allegedly. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right, so let's go back to some actual game action. So you got the first half of the Browns game on the radio. That must have been awful.
Yeah, because
I was streaming it on my Slingbox from Indianapolis.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the video of it. I just listened on the radio, but it did not sound like things were going well. And that's, as I was waiting for the night to go on, I'm like, oh, geez, so we got, so far, 70,000 of these 100,000 people downtown are angry. Because the Browns are horrible and the Gladiators are getting blown out. But
come on, getting blown out. They only lost by 40.
I know.
In a championship game. I mean, that's almost as bad. I mean, obviously the stakes are different, but that's almost as bad as when the Cavs got swept by San Antonio.
I was at Game 4. Yeah, it was no fun.
Oof.
The Gladiators fans, though, were in a better mood than... I didn't pick up any Browns fans at the end because they were all probably pretty drunk. But
Yeah.
the Gladiators fans were all like, you know what? For a while, it was kind of fun. The atmosphere was great till about the end of the first quarter, and then people started to drift away.
And there were probably only about 1,200 Indians fans. Is that team still playing? I'm such a jerk about the Indians right now, and I almost feel badly about it. But
you know what? Yeah, I am too. I feel badly too because other than the fact that they didn't do anything to inspire me, like
they have not earned my love.
No, they have my love because they have the word Cleveland in the name.
Sure.
But it's like someone going, well, I don't want to marry this person, but I'm not going to marry anybody else. I'm just not going to get married, you know? So it's like I'm just really not paying attention to baseball at this point because the team that I like decided, well, we should probably just pack it in for this year and play things out, and we'll worry about next year. And when they do that, it's tough to not do that yourself.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with the appropriate comparison. I do. I love Cleveland baseball. I love the Indians, but yeah, you know, I could take it or leave it right this second, which is bad. I mean, it's been almost a whole season of that for me, which is especially bad because they were coming off a playoff appearance. There was no reason for me not to be excited about them for the first 3 months of the season. All the bitching I've done about them post-trade deadline is kind of retrofitting the fact that for some reason I just wasn't excited about them from the get-go this year, which is bad for me.
It is, but again, what did they do that was super inspiring to build on last year?
Yeah, I could blame them, and they deserve some of the blame, but I really do think some of it's me.
Well, your own faults aside. When it came to the end of last year, because we kept hearing last year as the kind of they prepared us to not make the playoffs last year. Well, listen, the plan is for next year. If we make the playoffs this year, that's
this
just
team's
a bonus.
a year early.
Right,
yeah.
We're a year, and then they make the playoffs, they get some momentum, and then like, oh, here's our big off season. Oh, we're really not going to do anything.
David Murphy. But meanwhile, you know, they've got 29 games in the next 29 days. It was 30 for 30 starting yesterday, and they won last night 8-6.
They're over 500.
They're over 500. They're 4.5 games back in the wild card. They're 5.5 games back in the division.
Oh, they're in striking distance, and if they can pull off a run of games like they did last year, that excited me last year when they pulled off that run, and then their last home series came up. I bought tickets and I went. And
that was the funny thing about last year, though, because if you really look at it, the actual number of days in the calendar year that we got to be excited about the Indians was actually really low.
Yeah.
So, and we're setting up for the same thing this year.
We're hoping we could pull off the miracle again this year and still not get good overall attendance or anything like that, which...
I think it's just hysterical that every time Nick Swisher gets hurt, they seem to play better. It's like those BS arguments. Are the Cavaliers better without LeBron James? That we used to get that back in the day, and then
because he would take a night off, and yeah.
Are the Cavaliers better without Kyrie Irving? Because
there was the Cavs Kyrie thing all the time.
But it's you know. And but it's different with Nick Swisher. The Indians might actually be better without Nick Swisher. That's just really sad.
Well, that is pretty sad. Because remember how excited we were about all that?
I admit it. I don't take ownership of it because I'm not like a professional, a scout or I'm not one of the team doctors, but I wanted them to get Nick Swisher. It was a pipe dream of mine to have a guy like that because I thought he was going to be that, all right, he's not a superstar, but he's a middle of the road. He's a professional. He's a guy
I'd heard of before.
He's that middle of the order guy that you can kind of count on to be predictable, and that's what I thought the Indians needed. And they went out and they got the guy, and he turned out to be a little bit at the end of his prime from a health standpoint earlier, I guess.
Yeah. Well, speaking of end of his prime, well, this isn't his prime either. I went to the Rubber Ducks game last night. and saw Jason Giambi whiff horribly both at bats I saw him on before the rain delay happened.
See, and you know what? This is something else the Indians have a habit of doing. They got lucky with Jason Giambi the first year, and then they went back to the well a second year in a row. And even people who loved the grizzled veteran guy were kind of like, "Really? We're doing this one again?"
Yeah.
And it was the same thing.
Like he had any business being out there at all.
It was the same thing when they went 2 years in a row with the What If campaign. The What If campaign worked in the first year, and everyone was like, yeah, this is awesome. We love the 90s. And then they did it a second year, and people were like, well, what are you going to do going forward? You got to stop leaning on the past. It just seems like the Indians go one extra year with most of their stuff.
Just very much like often one extra inning with the starting pitcher that leads to disaster as well.
Yeah, although I am going to stop short of being critical of Terry Francona. I just don't have it in me.
I think I've said this on Twitter before. I like all of our head coaches. I like Mike Pettin. I like David Blatt. But the coach that I'd most like to give me a hug is Terry Francona.
I could agree with that in a weird way.
It's like he would just, hey, how's it going? And then he'd just give you a hug. Like, I'm afraid, that's just the way I feel. I really, and I don't know how they pulled that off, but hey, I like that. But again, if you don't ever give him guys to put in the lineup, I don't know what you expect him to do.
Well, let's talk about Mike Pettin for a second, because I kind of agree with you. I kind of like the guy. I think he's a good head coaching candidate. I like the way he carries himself. I like the way he is talking to the press. And so far, I like his demeanor on the sidelines, and I like the fact that he's a defensive guy. But, and it's a big but, would the Browns be better off if they had just fired Banner and Lombardi and kept Chud and Norv Turner and Ray Horton?
Because
you know they would. I'm saying it right now.
Absolutely. No, I think
that continuity would have been amazing.
Better than Shanahan. And to be honest with you, I don't remember who our defensive coordinator even is right now.
Yeah, it's Mike Pettin's buddy. I can't remember his name. He was the linebackers coach for the Bills.
Yeah, and no, I agree with you. I think the continuity, and you really had a dynamite set of coordinators there. And if you could have, somehow just gotten rid of Lombardi and Banner and kept the whole power structure, I would have loved to have known what was going on in there. I've been a part of some dysfunctional organizations in my day, but I would have just loved it just to see what the heck was going on.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we have to change topics. I was a little bit distracted there. I don't like to do breaking news on the podcast, but we'll have something to talk about. The NFL Players Association has sent out a statement from Josh Gordon. His 1-year ban has been upheld. So Josh Gordon has been banned for a year.
Starting from today?
I'm guessing that's the case.
Ugh.
So the Cleveland Browns not only were in limbo for all of preseason and training camp, short of this one game on tomorrow night, with Josh Gordon, but now his 1-year ban has been upheld, so I think that means from August 27th.
Ugh.
And that doesn't mean he'll be reinstated August 27th, 2015. That means that he'll have to reapply.
That's his first reapplication date, because he's banned indefinitely right now.
This is not going to go quietly. Josh Gordon, I think, will file a lawsuit, an injunction, file a lawsuit similar. Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk was talking about this yesterday. It's similar to what happened with the Saints defensive lineman over the Star Caps. Star Caps was a dietary supplement that they got popped for. And an injunction was placed on the league by the court from upholding a suspension. And I think that this is a big enough deal that Josh Gordon might actually sue, and maybe a judge will impose an injunction. It's so unfortunate for Browns fans, though. This is, I mean, it's unfortunate for Josh as well, or whatever. You know, people have varying levels of sympathy for him, but Browns fans and rookie Browns coaches, as we just talked about, do not need this.
Yeah, and Browns quarterbacks don't need this.
No.
No, I agree with you, and I understand smoking pot is illegal. And I understand that it's against the rules in the NFL, and he signed up to be in the NFL. So I'm not going to say that what he did wasn't against the rules.
If he actually even did smoke it, he's still responsible for what's in his body. I don't think that. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it.
Yeah, I get it. But to hear the whole A/B test thing, I've talked to my wife's from a family of mostly lawyers, and they said that A/B test thing wouldn't, if you were trying to keep someone out of, like, from a parole violation or something like that, that could be thrown out so easily that, oh, well, it was random chance that the one that he picked up as A was A and B was B. And I'm also a firm believer in the fact that if you remember back in the good old days of Delonte West's off-court behavior while he was in season and had a routine versus Delonte West cut loose and fancy free, as a person, I think it's better for Josh Gordon to be in a routine with the team, with people who are positive influences, because obviously the people he spends time with off the field are not positive influences. And I wonder how this would have gone down without the DUI.
Right. Well, and the NFL would tell you that they're separate things and they don't have anything to do with each other. But the thing here for me is that you do not help people with substance abuse issues through punishment. You just don't.
Because if they knew how to avoid punishment, they wouldn't have if they had control over that sort of thing, they wouldn't have got into that situation in the first place.
Right. So, man, there are so many questions. Why did it take this long?
Yeah, why did it take a month? That's
because I understand that his appeal was even kind of going on 3-4 weeks ago. But why did they need another 3 or 4 weeks after that? The timing of it really makes it seem like they were waiting for his DUI case to be postponed again, because it was postponed as of yesterday.
Well, and again, that's the DUI made it easy for people to have the
sympathy.
The no sympathy and the, hey, this guy's got real problems narrative to happen, And what if it was, okay, he used to smoke pot and literally he's got 70 clean tests. Then he has one with a minuscule amount, and all of a sudden, maybe he's not this, drug-addled person that some narratives make him out to be.
But he passed 70-some tests.
Right, and that's tough to do. And so, yeah, this DUI was not a great thing for that, because it was just another. See, he's obviously has issues he needs to deal with before the NFL, before he can be in football, or he got a DUI like a lot of other people get, like an owner of an NFL team got, and he also has been clean for I don't know how much time 70 drug tests spans.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm bummed, man. And let me just say for the record that I have trouble comparing this, especially because it's a part of the program. The drug abuse program is collectively bargained. I have a real tough time, even though I disagree with the Ray Rice thing, I have a tough time comparing this to Ray Rice with any kind of honesty. But I don't have any difficulty comparing this to what happened to Irsay, getting popped with all those painkillers and potentially painkillers that he did not have a prescription for. So,
yeah, and that's if you want to talk about a difference of class and how the power structure in the NFL works, it's right there in front of your face.
So we'll see what happens to Irsay. Like Josh Gordon, though, his case has been postponed again, and that it hasn't finished. So the NFL is not worthy of criticism yet, because they do have to wait for that case to unfold in the courts. But
and while it seems silly and it's easy to write a headline about, Ray Rice beats somebody up and only gets a couple of games, it's easy to write that. The position obviously is much more nuanced than that. But
because that's BS doesn't mean that it's a one-to-one relationship and they're totally comparable.
Exactly. Yeah, it's horrible that he did
These are two very different kinds of BS.
Right, exactly. Yes, it's horrible he did that. Yes, he was punished by the league. The severity of that is 100% independent to the NFL following the letter of the law of their own rules. They did follow the letter of the law of their own rules the whole way.
It's like I find murder to be horrible and I find embezzlement to be horrible, but I'd rather not compare the two.
Right.
So.
And if you had certain guests on your podcast, they would say, well, what about Jimmy Haslam and his legal troubles? You haven't seen anything about that.
Right.
Because he bought his way out of it. And Josh Gordon hasn't earned enough to buy his way out of this one yet.
I guess. Well, and I think this is so far-reaching. Sean Gilbert made his candidacy known for the NFL Players Association president's job yesterday, and he's going to challenge the man who helped put this current drug policy in place as part of the collective bargaining agreement. There are a lot of dominoes to fall from this, and I don't think this one's over yet, because the NFL decided today.
Well, and I don't know who this helps.
Exactly.
Because a year off doesn't help Josh Gordon, doesn't help the NFL, it doesn't help other players in the drug program, it doesn't help the team. I don't know who this is for. Are there really a bunch of puritanical NFL fans going, no, we need to punish this guy for being on drugs? Because I bet if you took a poll of people who watch the NFL, and if they let a guy who smoked pot onto the field, what would the NFL's viewership or money spent, where's the impact of that?
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to finish this podcast with a free Josh Gordon.
Absolutely, free Josh Gordon.
And that's not to say that he's a perfect guy who hasn't made mistakes, because he's not. But it just punishments are supposed to fit crimes, and as a society, as a fan of the NFL, we are supposed to have some kind. It's supposed to be palatable to us. And I think your last point is the best one. Who does this help? Who benefits from handling it this way? It doesn't help players. It doesn't help fans. It doesn't help teams. It doesn't help the law. It helps nobody.
Yeah.
So, thanks so much. We like to try and be funnier than this, but this one,
this one took a turn.
Yeah, this one.
We started with bathroom humor, and this is the karmic reaction we get.
Well, if it got too serious for you, hit the rewind button and listen to us talk about public urination again.
Or, if you want, you can listen to the Varsity Blues episode of Anything to Add Monty, which will be out Friday.
Ah, very good. Varsity Blues. Okay, so that's going to be out Friday.
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me on again. I hope we can keep doing it.
And what's the URL for the Anything to Add Monty podcast?
It is anythingtoaddmonty.com.
Very good, very good. Thanks, Dave Sterling, Dimoko, Dimoko on Twitter. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks. Next time, let's have a more enjoyable conversation about the Browns beating the Steelers.
All right. Until then, it's been the WaitingForNextYear.com podcast. Free Josh Gordon.
Free Josh Gordon.
Waiting for next year.